All right, so let's take a look at Chapter 16. Chapter 16 deals with the digestive system. So let's look at some general information about the digestive system. So first is digestion. And digestion is simply the mechanical and chemical breakdown of food and the resulting absorption of the nutrients by cells. There are two types of digestion. One is mechanical digestion, and this is where we're going to break larger pieces of food into smaller pieces of food, and that is without changing the chemical composition of the food. Now that's going to occur in one place, which you can see with this kid. One place is in our mouth that occurs, and another place is our stomach. All right. Next is chemical digestion. So we're going to, in chemical digestion, enzymes are going to break food down into their simpler chemical compounds. So carbohydrates are broken down into monosaccharides, mainly glucose there. Proteins are broken down into amino acids. Most lipids, meaning fats and oils, are broken down into fatty acids and into monoglycerides or glycerol. All right. Nucleic acids, RNA and DNA, very, very small percentage of what we eat, are broken down into nucleotides. All right. Now let's take a look at, so chemical digestion. This is showing where chemical digestion occurs. This occurs in our mouth, through the saliva, in our stomach, in our small intestine as well. And this is just showing where some of those things are absorbed. All right. So now let's look at our digestive system. So the first is the alimentary canal. So the alimentary canal, I'm going to move to this next picture here. This pretty much shows most of that alimentary canal. The alimentary canal is also known as gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract. This is a tubular portion of our digestive system that leads from the mouth to the anus. So that's what's missing on here is the mouth and then the pharynx. And after the pharynx, now we have the esophagus, there's the stomach. Here's the small intestine, then the large intestine, rectum, and anus. All right. Now the small intestine is named not due to its length, it's named due to its diameter. Same with the large intestine. So the large intestine has a larger diameter than the small intestine, but it is, as you can see, much, much shorter. Next are accessory organs. So accessory organs are, these are organs that are going to help out with digestive processes by releasing secretions into the alimentary canal. So those include our salivary glands, our liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Let's take a look at movements in our alimentary canal. So the first is a mixing movement. If it occurs in the small intestine, it's called desegmentation, but it's pretty much the same thing. This is where smooth muscle and small segments of the tube contract rhythmically. And that's going to mix the food with the digestive juices. And so that's what we see here. So this is showing the stomach. So we squeeze here, relax here, and we go back and forth. And that's going to mix the food substances with those digestive juices. So this is going to occur in the stomach. It also occurs in our small intestine. Next is a propelling movement, which is what we see over here. So this is a moving of substances down a tube. And this is done by peristaltic contractions. So peristaltic contractions, or peristalsis, is where the smooth muscle contracts in a wave-like fashion. So if you're looking at the organ, you're going to see a wave of contraction moving down the organ. And so what it's going to do, it's always going to pinch behind whatever substances we're moving down that tube. The analogy here is if you have a tube of toothpaste, you're going to squeeze behind the toothpaste to get it to the front, so from the back to front. All right. All right, so now let's take a look at the organs of the digestive tract, of the digestive system. And we're going to start here with the mouth, and obviously we're going to end with the anus. So the mouth here, this is where the mechanical breakdown of food occurs. Most of it, some of it, it's also going to occur in our stomach. And this is also where the chemical digestion of carbohydrates begins. So this space right here is known as the oral cavity. So this is a chamber between the palate, which is the roof of the mouth, and the tongue. Now if we look at the tongue, most of our taste buds are found on the tongue. I don't have a picture of that, but what our tongue is going to do is it's going to help mix the food with the saliva, and this is going to create what is known as a bolus, and it's going to move that bolus to our pharynx for swallowing. Our tongue also possesses papilla, which are these kind of rough-like projections, and that's where our taste buds are located on those papilla. If we look at the palate, next, that's the roof of the oral cavity. Now let me go to, this picture here. This is showing our palate here. We have this hard part, which is bone there. we have a soft part, and then we have a uvula, which is kind of the cone-shaped projection in the back of our throat there. Now, when we swallow, that soft palate and uvula are going to get moved up, as you can see in this picture here, and that closes off the nasopharynx and the nasal cavity, preventing food from being pushed up there. All right, so let's just go back to this picture. There you can see that uvula from the front view. All right, let's take a look at teeth. All right, so this is showing all the structures of a tooth there, which we'll cover in lab. So first we have primary teeth. We get 20 primary teeth. We have 8 incisors, so here's the top, here's the bottom. We have 4 canines or cuspids, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 8 molars, all right? So next are secondary teeth. Secondary teeth are also known as our permanent teeth. We have 8 incisors, once again. We have 4 canines or cuspids. We have 8 premolars, found here, also known as bicuspids. And then we have 12 molars. Now, a lot of people have that last set of molars taken out. Those are the wisdom teeth. And it's essentially because over human evolution, as our cranium size increased, our faces flatten out. And so for a lot of people, there isn't enough room in our jaws to have that last set of molars. And so this is what can happen to some people. You can get this really compacted wisdom tooth in there. All right. I've actually seen an x-ray of a former student of mine that looked exactly like this, unfortunately for her. All right, let's move on to the salivary glands. So the salivary glands, so we have 3 sets of salivary glands. We have the sublingual, which are under the tongue, submandibular, and then the parotid, which are over here. All right. So let's look at the functions of saliva. One is it moistens the food particles, and this allows us to taste those food particles. Next, it helps bind the food together, creating what is known as a bolus. And it also begins the chemical digestion of carbohydrates through this enzyme called amylase. So amylase is an enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates. It also cleans our teeth and mouth. So we don't just produce saliva while we eat, we produce saliva throughout the day. And in doing so, that's going to help clean out the food particles and bacteria in our mouth.